afternoon. So now we transition to Chicago week. Like I mentioned, we're going to go to a regular season schedule and get our team ready for what that means from a game plan standpoint, from meetings changing a little bit. We'll still do some competitive periods at practice, which we would not do during a normal regular season. So it's going to be a hybrid of a regular season schedule while still getting some good work in offense versus defense. But with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Coach. The first one will be from Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, Kevin, do you have any updates for us on AJ Green or Perion Winfrey or the injured guys from yesterday?
Yeah, AJ Green was cleared. Dalen Baldwin is in the concussion protocol, and then Perion is working through a couple things. Well, he'll be okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. We'll go to Scott Petrick.
Hey, Kevin. Regarding Joshua Dobbs, like when you're evaluating him as a potential number two who could have to step in week one, like how do you balance what you see every day in practice and then the preseason versus the fact that he really hasn't played much in the regular season?
Yeah, for me, Scott, it's a body of work. So it goes back to the reps he gets in practice, how he does in the meeting room, what he does on the game field, obviously. In terms of career and career attempts and those type of things, really just focused on what he's done with us.
He's been in the league for a little bit. Are you surprised that he hasn't gotten more of a chance to play?
Well, I think a lot of times that's circumstance, if the starter is playing quite a bit.
Thank you, Scott. Ashley Bastock, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, a Cade question for you. I mean, I know when we've talked to him a handful of times, he's brought up the fact that sometimes he'll make kicks and he's not happy with how he hit the ball. And then the 55-yarder he missed yesterday, he mentioned, that he felt he hit it pretty good. I guess just for a rookie to kind of have that attention to detail and nuance with the way he's approaching his craft, just how important that is, especially at the position he plays.
Yeah, Ashley, I think it's true that he really does work on his craft. Exactly what he mentioned to you, he mentioned to me and us in terms of how he hits each ball. I think you take each ball into account. And so he's very conscientious about working at it. And it's going to be a process. And it's a process out here on the practice fields. It's a process in these game settings, just trying to continue to ascend as a young player.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley. Jeff Shadell will have our next question.
Hey, Kevin, we're this backup center job. I kind of obsessed with that. So Michael Dunn, how did he look and how do you see that unfolding?
Yeah, I think it definitely is unfolding through practice and games. I think all of these jobs are fluid and guys are battling for roster positions, and we don't have to set the depth chart for a while here. So he'll continue to compete at that role. I thought he played well yesterday, Jeff. I thought he plays hard as he always does. He finishes, plays with the right amount of tenacity and playing with clean technique and those type of things. So he always gives us an honest day's work.
Thank you, Jeff. Dan Lobby, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, I wanted to ask you about Alex Wright. He's getting a lot of opportunities with Miles and Jadeveon not playing in these games. So what have you seen from him early on?
Yeah, I think he's flashed, Dan. I think he's done a nice job in practice. Going back to the last couple of days versus the Eagles, versus some really good tackles. He had some good rushes. And then in the game, he's done a nice job. He's made plays. He's a young man. A lot of this is new to him. Just the NFL game, the speed of the NFL game, some of the things we're asking him to do schematically. But he's done a really nice job.
And then just, with Miles and Jadeveon, what do you think it's meant for him? I mean, he was telling me yesterday, he just learned so much from those guys. He calls them almost player coaches. What do you think he's picked up from those guys?
Yeah, I think any young player is doing himself a disservice if he doesn't watch the vets in front of him and learn in terms of how they study, how they prepare, how they practice, the different techniques they use. So he's fortunate to have a couple veterans there in Miles and JD that have played the game at a really high level.
Thanks, Dan. Next up, Daryl Ryder.
Yeah, Coach, I want to ask you about a couple of guys. First up, Mike Harley. It seems that injury to that you had a punt returner seems to like open the door a little bit. So what have you seen from Harley, not just as a receiver, but in the return game here?
Yeah, Mike's a young man that has, again, given us some really good reps, both at receiver, wanted to see what he could do at returner. And, that'll be a continual evaluation with Mike, but a very, very competitive player, as you saw on that catch yesterday, really fighting for that ball, and he was not going to be denied, and then had a couple other nice plays in that game. So doing a nice job.
And Stump Mitchell, we asked you about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and the patience thing that Stump talked about. It seemed with John Kelly yesterday, we got the quintessential patience style of running from him, especially on that touchdown. Just what have you seen from him, and how would you describe him as a young runner?
Yeah, I think with patience, there's different run schemes and different run types. And so patience is going to look a little bit different on a wide zone than it is on a gap scheme, like the touchdown run that John had down there. And that's one of everybody runs that play. We call it duo. Some people call it crunch. That's the Le'Veon Bell play over the years, where talk about patience, really biding time behind the line of scrimmage, waiting for your read at the second level to commit, and then making your cut. So I think for John, he's had that play in practice. He's had that play in games. And I think it's a continued evolution for him to make sure he's putting the ball in the right spot.
Daryl, we'll go back to Mary Kay Cabot.
Hi, Kevin, just wondering, how will you balance with Jacoby Brissett in the last preseason game, injury risk versus sort of the dress rehearsal and getting him ready to play the season?
Yeah, I think that's really the balance, Mary Kay, for every team when you're playing your starters versus not playing your starters in these games. It's something that we talk about every year and really talk about every week, and just trying to make the right decisions for your team. I don't know that anybody knows exactly what you need week in and week out. It's just you got to kind of go with what's in front of you.
So do you think that will you play him, in the olden days, it was like 3 quarters for a dress rehearsal. Do you think you'll do something like that? And did you see enough of Joshua that you don't necessarily need to see him, or 1 quarter might be okay this game for him?
We're working through the plan for this game, Mary Kay, so not ready to say exactly yet. But you're right. In those olden days, this was the game where people played, through the first half, maybe into the third quarter. But we're not ready yet to say what our plan will be.
Thanks, Mary. Scott Petrick, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, I wanted to go with a couple of other rookie D linemen. With Isaiah Thomas, it looked like his hand was in a cast. Is he going to be able to play with like padding on that?
He should be able to play, yes.
Do you expect him back this week?
I do.
Okay. And with Perrion, how did you think he played before he went out late? And you talked about his technique early in camp. Have you seen him getting better at that?
Yeah, definitely getting better because he's working at it. But like most rookies, not consistent enough yet. And that only comes with time. It just comes with working at it before practice, during practice, and after practice. But certainly seeing flashes of Perrion using his technique. He just has to get more consistent.
Thank you, Scott. We'll take 2 more, Tony Grossi and Tom Withers. Tony.
Hi, Kevin. 3 quick questions, 3 different players. One, Alex Taylor played every snap. Was he just last man up, or was there a real reason for that?
In a lot of ways, yes, Tony. Alex did a nice job, and he, a credit to him for playing that whole game. But there are, when you're resting guys, there's limitations to how many guys you have up.
And MJ Emerson left the game. What was his injury?
It was finger, but he's okay.
Okay, and last one, D'Anthony Bell. He looks like he's made an impression on everyone. Is that correct? A good impression? Yeah,
I think, you go back to the Jacksonville game, obviously getting the ball out, did a nice job. I'd go back to what I said about Perrion. He's a rookie. These young players who haven't had a ton of reps to date, they're going to make mistakes, and it's the old, they got to make it once and correct it. But he's certainly a guy that's working hard at it.
Thanks, Tony. Final question, Tom Withers.
Thanks, Rob. Hey, Kevin, Coach Sirianni said those guys got a lot out of those few days, what have you. Have you booked the Eagles for season next year already?
We talked about it, you know, you got to see how the schedule shakes out and all those type of things, but wouldn't bother me going back to Philly for a few days next year.
And since we have some breaking news, I just wanted to ask you, Baker Mayfield was named the starting quarterback for the opener, which kind of spices that up a little bit. Just wanted to see if you had some reaction.
I didn't see that, Tom, but I think we'll wait to talk about Carolina until we get there. I'm still in the week 3 of the preseason mode.